to more in staying with Carson in Indy?
Yes, I think he will regret that. I agree, by the way, with the assessment of Carson Wentz. He's a special talent, always has been. That's why I thought he was going to win MVP on his way to doing it in 2017. That's why it took me a while to see, no, this is regression. This is no good. This is no good. Took everyone else longer to see it for some reason, except for maybe the Eagles front office. But he kept going in the wrong direction. Lamar Jackson also hasn't, and by the way, Wentz to Luck, he is similar to Luck in a lot of ways, although it's hard for me to imagine Luck leaking to the press that he wants out if he can't start the day his teammate is starting his professional career under center. Hard for me to imagine Andrew Luck doing that kind of thing, and Wentz did. But Lamar Jackson started out not known as a passer, but if you look at his age 21 passing numbers, accuracy, he was the most accurate per Warren Sharp Analytics, most accurate starting quarterback at age 21 in the history of the NFL. That includes everyone. That includes Wentz and Luck and Peyton Manning and everybody, right? Most accurate at age 21. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to wind up the most accurate. By age 23, he wasn't the most accurate age 23 passer. But just like people will point to circumstances about Carson Wentz, look at Lamar Jackson's circumstances. Hollywood Brown is a nice receiver. Like, he can do some stuff. He's not a number one. They don't have dynamic, multiple, certainly not even really one, real dynamic receiving threat target for Lamar Jackson. And so the trajectory of his career that way hasn't been great. And even so, the man's won an MVP. Like, I've seen Lamar Jackson with the money on the line hit passes, like he connects. So the bottom line about Foles is about Wentz is that it was Nick Foles who won the Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. It was Nick Foles the next year where Wentz had led a team to a 5-6 record dead in the water where they caught fire with Foles, made the playoffs, won a playoff game on the road, almost won two. It was, Josh McCown, who lost to Seattle in the playoffs by the same score that Wentz lost to them in the regular season. McCown was 40 years old. He was half dead and he did that. And then it was Jalen Hurts, who clearly the offense worked better with Hurts than Wentz. I'm just looking how the team, you could say, well, Wentz didn't have this, didn't have that. That applies to the other quarterbacks on that team around that time, too. They all did better than Wentz with the same stuff. Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, has won when it's mattered most, and has won an MVP, and is part of an organization that consistently fields competitive teams. I think he'll regret it.
Well, I don't think he'll regret it at all because I think you're missing the big picture. And Jeff Saturday is more qualified than me to expound upon where I'm going. At some point in time in your career, Max, the reason I think you're wrong will kind of shock you. It's not about Carson Wentz. It's about what you think about yourself sometimes. Did it ever occur to you that T Y Hilton no longer looks at himself as a number one? That he's climbing up there in age, that age and attrition kicks in? T Y Hilton has been a big-time receiver for quite a long time. He had about 760 receiving yards last season. Okay, him and Pascal and Michael Pittman Jr., he's the new cat on the scene, a young stud that can ball and what have you. You got Jonathan Taylor running the football effectively out of the backfield as an 1,100-yard rusher. You have one of the best offensive lines in football. And so when you look at it from that perspective, rather than wanting to go somewhere where you're the number one guy, but you don't know if you stay healthy enough, you don't know if you still got it enough, et cetera, and you're looking at the squad around you. Yeah, they got something. Of course, they can run the football because Lamar Jackson is out of the behind center, and he's an electrifying runner from the quarterback position. But who's your running back now? And then when you think about your wideouts, okay, you got some decent dudes. You're another decent dude, but you might not be a number one anymore. What kind of pressure is that going to put on you? That offensive line, can they protect Lamar Jackson? Can they give you a running game? And if they can, if there are question marks about that, how much more pressure is going to be applicable to you? So all of those things come into consideration when you're looking at the coach. If I'm looking at the coach, if I'm T Y Hilton, it's familiar surroundings. I've already played for this organization. I know who the GM is. I know who the coach is. I damn sure know what my offensive line is. I know who Pittman is. I know who Pascal is. I know who Burton is. I know who Jonathan Taylor is. And on top of all of that, I'm remembering and reminiscing about what I once saw from Carson Wentz. And when was Carson Wentz exceptional? When Frank Wright, my head coach, was his offensive coordinator and his quarterback's coach in Philadelphia.
And he had an offensive line.
So I take all of those things into consideration, and I say, okay, the safe bet for me to stretch my career a little bit longer by not putting so much on my shoulders, being a part of a team, structure and all of that. And when I'm looking for something, this is the best place for me to be. I totally get where T Y Hilton could be coming from, and I don't think he'll regret this at all.
I could not agree with you more, Stephen A. Listen, and for all the reasons you just said at the latter part of your argument, I think comfort where you are, right? Family not having to move, not having to reinvent yourself on a football team. You're a known commodity in Indianapolis. You know Chris Ballard, the GM. You know the owner, Jim Irsay, personally and very well. Frank Reich has been good to you throughout your career. All of those things play a large part in why you would want to stay where you are. And to Stephen A's point, the expectations of what he is or what he will be for this team is already known in Indy. So he's not going in with any false pretense about he's going to be this guy or be that guy. He just has to be a part of a very good football team. He understands they're right on the cusp. And with Carson Wentz, if he can get back to even close to where he was in Philadelphia when Frank was his coach, this thing could skyrocket. They have an ascending defense that really showed people who they were last year. They're going to have two running backs now, add on Taylor and Mack. Coming back, they'll be dynamic at the offensive line position. They have good receivers on the outside, a multitude of those guys, 2 or 3. They have good tight ends in. So as you're looking at this, you're looking at all arrows pointing up, and all you have to be is a part of. You don't have to be the commanding piece. I think if he went to Baltimore, he would have been expected to be a larger piece of this offense where he understands he has to learn all this, right? You got to learn their route combinations. You got to learn their new playbook. What are you, where are you trying to be? Then you got to find the rhythm with Lamar Jackson. All of those things add on. At least in Frank's system, it's a new quarterback, but he knows where he's supposed to be. So I don't think he'll have any regrets. And I do believe if you looked at both organizations, they're both great organizations. They're both run really well. I would say they're both in the elite category of teams you would want to play for. So if it was one of those things where he was just tired in Indy or it was too chaotic, I could understand it. With all else being equal, I think he made the right choice.
Well, I appreciate your guys' comments because it makes sense in terms of continuity, in terms of familiarity. By the way, I remember in 2017, I was running around saying when with Lane Johnson, the offensive, the tackle, they were trending toward elite. When he gets back, and that's exactly what happened. If he thought Lane Johnson was good, wait till he gets a load of Quentin Nelson, right? I get it that the offensive line, Jeff Saturday, has a huge say in how successful you are. Really, I was looking at this more of a Lamar Jackson to Carson Wentz comparison. If someone said you want to roll with Lamar Jackson or Carson Wentz, I would say Lamar. I think Lamar is trending in the right direction. With Carson Wentz, what we're all hoping is, all right, Carson, you're in a perfect situation. Familiar coach, offensive line, offensive weapons, a running game, a defense. He has high upside in the past, at least, right? So here we go. What I'm saying is I think Carson Wentz has regressed so severely, and it wasn't overnight. It took like a year and a half, that I don't know that he gets back to even being pretty good, even on the Colts. But I'll tell you something I do know. I expect Lamar Jackson to keep getting better. And he's already pretty damn good. The man has won an MVP.
Well, you could say that, but I could also tell you to take into consideration the conferences as well. Look at the trouble Houston's having right now. We know why. No reason to revisit that at this particular moment in time involving Deshaun Watson. Look at Jacksonville. Yeah, you're about to draft Trevor Lawrence. You got Urban Meyer as your coach, but it's going to be a minute before they ascend. So really, if I'm in Indy, all I'm really worried about is the Tennessee Titans. Okay? That might be another thing. Whereas you go to the AFC North, this is the Steelers. It's the Browns. Okay?
Joe Burrow's coming back?
Joe Burrow's coming back? Yeah, stay where you are.
No, yes.
Yeah, listen, Stephen
choosing the Colts is
Stephen
one thing.
A. could be talking more
Wentz.
common sense.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, but here's the thing with Wentz. So Foxworth and I were on the show. We're on Get Up yesterday. We talked about quarterback proficiency when you're protected. I think your QBR is in the 70s when you have no pressure. When you're under pressure, it's in the 30s. That's an enormous stretch. So if the Colts can provide Wentz with any type of protection, think about the limit or the ability he could put in this. Like this thing could be a complete turnaround, almost borderline miraculous coming from Wentz, coming from Philly to
Yeah.
where he is now. And you have a fan base that's extremely supportive, right? Think about in Philly, all the shots he was taking for all the things Max said about what Foles did and Super Bowls, Super Bowl MVPs, a statue of him outside. He didn't have to deal with any of that stuff anymore, right? He's going to come in with a fresh slate where everybody's in full support of where he's going. I think he has a huge upside there in Indy.
No question. Listen, they're both great options. Obviously, Colts and Baltimore both have squads, but some might argue that Carson, even though he hasn't won of late, he's got a better arm than Lamar Jackson. We are talking about a receiver. We will leave it there. Jeff Saturday, happy Friday. Happy Good Friday to you, sir. We will chat with you next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for the time. Fellas, when
Y'all
we
as
come
well.
back, we're going
Thank
to
you.
discuss a little NBA. Thank you. Happy Easter. As KD finally returns from injury and James Harden is a bit hobbled, folks are starting to get concerned about the Nets' health. Who is more important to the title run? Is it KD or Harden? We debate that. And legendary coach Roy Williams calling it a career. We reflect on the Hall of Famer in Carolina Blue. Coach Seth Greenberg will join us for that.